It was a rainy Thursday morning, the kind that made the windows fog and the roads shimmer with reflections. Inside Benny's diner, the smell of bacon, pancakes, and fresh coffee hung in the air like a warm blanket. Ella, a 23-year-old waitress with tired eyes but an ever-present smile, tied her apron and started pouring cups for the early regulars. The diner wasn't exactly upscale, it was one of those old-fashioned joints with red booths and a jukebox that barely worked. But it had soul, and Ella loved it, even if the paychecks barely covered her rent. As she moved between tables, her eyes landed on a familiar figure, an elderly man who always sat in the corner booth near the window. He wore the same brown coat every time, one with slightly worn-out sleeves and buttons that had lost their shine. His name was Sam. That's all anyone knew. Sam always ordered one black coffee, no sugar, no cream. He sat quietly, read an old newspaper, and nodded politely to anyone who passed by. Ella grabbed a clean cup and filled it before he even asked. As she walked over, she gave him a warm smile. "Morning, Mr. Sam," she said cheerfully, setting the cup down in front of him. He looked up from his paper and smiled back. "Morning, dear. You always remember. Hard to forget someone who tips in peppermints," she teased, referring to the little red and white candies he left instead of cash sometimes. He chuckled, his laugh soft and gravelly. "They say kindness costs nothing, but I figured I'd sweeten the deal." Ella laughed politely and walked away, attending to other customers. She didn't think much of it. It was a normal morning in a very normal week. But as she glanced back a few minutes later, she saw Sam patting down his pockets. He checked the inside of his coat, then the outside again. His face shifted into a look of mild worry. Ella returned to his table. "Everything all right?" she asked gently. Sam looked up, embarrassment creeping into his expression. I seem to have left my wallet at home. I could come back tomorrow and pay." Ella waved her hand quickly, brushing it off like it was nothing. "It's just coffee," she said with a warm smile. "Don't worry about it." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I'm positive," she said, pulling her notepad out and writing her name at the bottom of the receipt. "I'll cover it." Sam stared at her for a moment, his eyes glistening. It was just coffee, but the way she said it made it feel like more. He nodded slowly, visibly touched. "You're very kind," he said. "Thank you." She smiled again, patted his shoulder lightly, and went back to her work. She never once asked who he was or where he came from. She didn't question his clothes or his wrinkled hands or the fact that he always seemed to sit alone. To Ella, he was just Sam. A nice old man with a quiet smile and a soft voice. Later that day, her coworker joked, "You're too nice for your own good, Elle. One of these days, someone's going to take advantage of that." Ella just shrugged. "If paying for a coffee makes someone's day better, I'm okay with that." And she meant it. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that Sam was not just some lonely old man. He wasn't poor, he wasn't forgetful, and he wasn't a regular diner customer by accident. For weeks, he had been visiting small cafes and diners all across the city, looking for something. Not money, not attention, but sincerity. Genuine kindness. The kind that came without strings or expectations. The kind that was rare in a world chasing profit and social media praise. And in a red booth at Benny's diner, he finally found it. That night, as Ella closed up, wiping counters and restocking sugar packets, she never once imagined that her simple act of generosity would change her life. She never thought the $2 coffee she paid for would come back to her in a way she couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams. But somewhere far from that diner, inside a grand office lined with books and city skyline views, Samuel H. Kensington, billionaire founder of Kensington Holdings, picked up his phone and made a quiet call. "I've found her," he said. And with that, the wheels of destiny began to turn. The next morning came and went, but Sam didn't show up. Ella tried not to worry. Maybe he had just forgotten. Maybe the rain kept him home. But as the days turned into a week, and then two, a quiet ache settled in her chest. She found herself glancing at the corner booth each morning, still preparing his black coffee out of habit. It sat untouched every time, growing cold as the lunch crowd rushed in. Her coworkers noticed her little ritual. "Still waiting for Mr. Peppermint," one of them teased, half joking, half concerned. Ella smiled faintly, wiping the counter. Yeah, just in case. But deep down, she knew something felt off. She wished she'd asked more. His last name, his address, something. But he had always been so quiet, so polite. It didn't feel right to pry. It was the first Sunday of the next month when everything changed. The diner bell jingled around 10 a.m., and a tall man in a charcoal gray suit stepped in. His polished shoes and tailored coat looked far too expensive for Benny's diner, and his expression was serious, purposeful. He scanned the room once before walking straight to the counter. "I'm looking for a waitress named Ella," he said. Ella, who had just finished refilling a ketchup bottle, turned at the mention of her name. "That's me," she said hesitantly. The man nodded and handed her an envelope with a golden seal. "This is from Mr. Samuel Kensington." Ella blinked. "Who? Samuel Kensington?" the man repeated. "You knew him as Sam. He used to sit in the corner booth." Her heart jumped. "Is he okay?" The man's face softened. "He passed away 2 days ago. Peacefully. But before he did, he left this for you." Ella stared at the envelope. Her hands trembled as she peeled it open. Inside was a handwritten letter, scrawled in old-fashioned cursive on thick cream-colored paper. The name at the bottom caught her breath. Samuel H. Kensington. The letter read, "Greater than dear Ella, you may be surprised to learn who I truly am. I did not come to Benny's diner by accident. I've spent the last few years searching for something many believe no longer exists, kindness for its own sake. The world is full of people who help others only when there's something to gain. But you offered me kindness when there was nothing in it for you. Just a $2 cup of coffee and a warm smile. You made me feel seen. Human. Worth something. I cannot repay that. Not really, but I hope to honor it. Enclosed you will find a deed to my countryside estate, my home for the past 30 years. It is yours now. Do with it what you will. With gratitude and respect, Samuel H. Kensington." Tears welled in Ella's eyes as she finished reading. Her knees felt weak, and she sat down on a nearby stool. She remembered the newspaper stories about Kensington Holdings, real estate, tech investments, billion-dollar ventures. She had always assumed Samuel Kensington was a name on buildings, not a man who drank black coffee and tipped in peppermints. The suited man handed her a second envelope, this one containing the deed and a set of keys. "I'm Mr. Kensington's legal representative. Everything's been transferred. The house, the land, it's all yours. If you need help managing the estate or want to sell it, we'll assist you." But he was very clear about one thing. He wanted you to have it, no one else. Ella didn't know what to say. Her voice caught in her throat. "Why me?" she whispered. The man smiled gently. "Because out of all the places he visited, all the people he met, you were the only one who showed him kindness with no expectation in return. That meant more to him than you'll ever know." Ella sat in silence long after the man had left, the envelope still clutched in her hand. Her coworkers gathered around, stunned and speechless. The corner booth never looked more sacred. Later that evening, after closing, Ella made her way to the booth and placed a single peppermint on the table. "For you, Mr. Sam," she whispered. She didn't care about the house, or the money. What mattered more was the lesson Sam had left her with. That a simple act of goodness, something so small it barely registered in her day, had the power to touch a heart, to change a life, even to carry on a legacy. And all it took was a cup of coffee.